Welcome back to the Teletran 1 files. We are now on to Transformers Prime Episode 6, Masters and Students. Now this takes place right after the whole Darkness Rising quintilogy. Should that be a word for 5 episodes? But anyway, we're back to Masters and Students, the aftermath of Megatron's return. The episode starts with Starscream reviewing the footage of Megatron's destruction during the space bridge explosion, and decides to make a rousing speech to the Viacon troops. When one of the troops questions whether they have any chance of defeating the Autobots without Megatron, Starscream proclaims himself Emperor of Destruction, but is disappointed when the less than enthusiastic response from his men. Starscream recalls that there is a Decepticon on the planet who is worthy to follow him. Meanwhile, back at Autobot Outpost Omega 1, Optimus Prime is unhappy about how their recent conflict turned out. He had still hoped to convince Megatron that peace was possible. But, just a note here, I've watched Transformers. I've read the whole synopsis of everything. And Optimus Prime always tries to convince Megatron that peace was possible. But after all those years, there was no avail. But anyway, his conversation with Ratchet is interrupted by an explosion, but it's just Raph's volcano. The kids are working on their science projects with the help of their guardian Autobots. Ratchet's annoyed about the whole matter, but Optimus thinks it's a good opportunity to learn more about Earth, though Ratchet believes the kids should be learning about Cybertron instead. Hanging out near a canyon in the desert, Soundwave detects one of the many warriors left on Earth eons ago to protect the Energon deposits. He and Starscream head over to find the lost Decepticon. Meanwhile, Raph and Bumblebee discuss Bee's lowly status in the Autobot army. Bumblebee aspires to become part of the warrior class, but Optimus says Bumblebee has much to learn before he can reach that rank. The base censors the Decepticon activity in the desert, so Optimus decides to head out with Ratchet. Ratchet makes a quick excuse that he needs to help the kids with their projects, so Optimus takes Bumblebee instead. Starscream and Soundwave haul the warrior out of the ground and use an Energon cube to revive him, revealing him to be none other than Skyquake. Skyquake emerges and announces he still serves Megatron, and he doesn't take kindly to Starscream declaring himself leader. They're interrupted by Optimus, who was familiar with Skyquake from the Battle of Technohar. And just a note here, Optimus Prime, in this series, respects two Decepticons. That's Skyquake and his twin, Dreadwing, who will appear in a later episode, far down the road. But then, we're back at Masters and Students. Optimus tries to talk peace, but Starscream would only agree to a truce if Optimus bows to him. Skyquake's patience has ran out, and knocking Starscream aside, he charges to Optimus. Starscream retires to a nearby cliff top with Soundwave and muses that all Decepticons will follow him once Skyquake destroys Prime while under his command. Optimus and Skyquake trade fire, but Bumblebee decides to take the initiative and attack Skyquake as well. Starscream orders Soundwave to record it all. Optimus observes that Skyquake hasn't taken on a vehicle mode yet, so the two Autobots transform and fall back. Meanwhile, Ratchet is helping Raph build a volcano, in that he's pretty much building it himself, and he intends to help Miko and Jack with their projects also. Having lost sight of the combatants, Soundwave picks up a Decepticon signal from the location of the space bridge explosion. When he realizes that Soundwave means it's Megatron, Starscream tries to dismiss it as a false signal, but realizes he has to investigate to keep up appearances. He leaves Soundwave, who dispatches his Minicon Laserbeak from his chest to follow him. Agent Fowler investigates the communications coming from the area. He arrives on the scene just as Optimus and Bumblebee have managed to knock Skyquake down, and the Decepticon scans his high-tech jet. Taking to the air, Skyquake strays the Autobots below, only for Fowler to attack him in turn. Skyquake fires some heat-seeking missiles at the human, who manages to evade them. Meanwhile, back at the space bridge debris, Starscream arrives and is disappointed to find Megatron floating in space. The Decepticon leader is barely sustained by a silver of Dark Energon, which Starscream rips from him. Starscream then spies Soundwave's drone, realizing he's being watched, and is forced to transport Megatron back to the sickbay on the Nemesis. So basically, after being abused and tortured by Megatron, he tries to take his revenge. But then when he sees Soundwave's minion Laserbeak, he decides to reconsider. And Soundwave's always been loyal to Megatron, no matter what the circumstances are. No wonder he's called the eyes and ears of the cons. As the chase below continues, Bumblebee jumps onto Skyquake, who unsuccessfully tries to knock the Autobot off. Optimus asks for Fowler's help, and as high above the desert, Bumblebee rips pieces out of Skyquake, sending the Decepticon into a crash dive. And to all the aviator listeners out there, you know what a crash dive is on a fighter jet. Fowler draws alongside so Bumblebee can jump aboard his jet before Skyquake crashes into the ground below. After closing his visors, what looks like for the last time, Optimus observes that had Skyquake chosen peace, they would not be burying him. Back at the base, the repairs on Bumblebee are complete, and Prime commends him on his performance. The kids arrive back with the news that Ratchet's science projects did not go well. The Autobot medic had built Miko a model of Cybertron rather than the solar system, Jack a flying saw, and Raph a volcano that blew a hole right through the school roof. Ratchet is disappointed. The episode closes on board the Nemesis. The Decepticons have gotten Megatron into stasis, and Starscream sincerely hopes he gets better. So, we now see Megatron survive due to Dark Energon, the effects of Dark Energon can be impressive, but exposure too long, Unicron, that's Dark Energon is the blood of Unicron, he might resurrect through Megatron. Well, I might be foreshadowing what's to come in this review series. But anyway, there's only one instance that I know that Starscream led the Decepticons. That's Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, I think. And this is like right after Megatron's defeat in the first Transformers movie. But I've always wondered what the Decepticons would look like under Starscream. We rarely see this in the show. Like, we see it a few times. We see it in some flashback episodes. But the only time we see Starscream lead like a rendition of the cons is the show right after Prime. But I'll get to that later. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yes. And the fact that Megatron's alive, kind of a twist, ain't it? I'll see you on the next episode.